Okay, we're back again here at the 421st Knowledge Seekers Workshop on Thursday, February 24th, 2022. This is usually the part where we have questions from our audience and various streaming services. So, Mr. Kesh, are you ready to take questions? Is that how you'd like to proceed today?
As usual, willing, able. I don't know if we can give enough. Whatever we give is not good enough.
Well, you certainly gave out a lot of information today and knowledge and
clarification.
Probably only a few people will get it in that sense. But perhaps if there are those that would like to ask a question regarding the teaching that Mr. Kesh has just given, that would be best to begin with here.
I think you have Jalal on the first row with 3 questions this time.
He is present here. I will allow him to talk if he would like to say something. He might be busy at work or something.
Busy, yeah. It could be.
Moshfek has a hand up here, so let's begin with him. Hi, Moshfek.
Hi. Hello, Mr. Kesh. I have a question regarding what's the relationship of silicon, which is 28, and what is its relation to carbon-14? It's also a double of carbon-14. So is there something that we can take advantage of because it's a readily available material, like in the glass?
Yes, but don't forget is if you touch the amino acid or collection of amino acid, you have that shiny softness like a gloss. You know, the softness and glossiness of our cells when you touch like neurosystem, which is communication line, is partially interaction of the fields of silicon. When you come to neural damages, you always have to use the gases of silicon. But you have to understand how it works and how it's because it's like a glass, it transfers energy, and the thickness of it, the composition of it in a neural system creates what we call the transfer of fields from one cell to another. It has a huge role to play, but amino acids themselves created it. They create that. You don't need the silica, you need the fields of silica to give that glossiness, that softness, that floatiness, but still containing it with a full, what we call transmission of energies. Silica is one of the, what we call, as an energy field of the gas, one of the fundamental plasmas in the body of the man. You have huge amount of it in tendons. When you have a problem with the tendons, when you damage it, you always need to create certain amount, produce certain amount of silica in the amino acid strength. You'll find out that the process of connection, or what you call ramification and connecting and producing cells, increases quite drastically when it comes to ligaments and tendons. The layer which you have on the skin, what we call of the bone, silica is one of the main attributes to it for separation, but still keeping it like a glass container, the skin. The separation of the skin tissues, when you take a muscle and you see it's got this jellyish material, most of it is silica, because it creates a connection, but at the same time separation between muscle tissues. The way you put it in a glass jar. But they're conductive, because then you go into carbon-14, but it has the property that is half of iron in the blood, which allows the transmission of the magnetic field gravitational in holding position. The silica is a very important player in even in the psychosomatic part of the creation of the physicality. You have a carbon-14, 28, and 56. It's why your muscle tissues are kept and shaped in a certain way, because the iron in the body, in connection with the gravitational field of the earth, creates fields which dictates the muscle size, the tissue size, and the containment for it. If you, what do you call it, play with carbon-12, you have a different proposition. Then carbon-12 5 times is copper. And then you go through the carbon-14, and then you see the reason for containment. But if you get the balance wrong, you see it more solidifies. You have to be very aware of it. We don't teach much about silica because it's one of those which jumps between the carbon-14 and carbon-12, but it still is a containment and transfer and transmute energies between the muscle tissues. Next time when you get a piece of lamp and you open the muscle tissue and just you pull out the skin, which you see it comes, it's like jelly-ish. That is composition of the plasmatic gas condition of carbon-14 with silica and conformation without any blood from the energy between the muscle tissues. You have two muscles next to each other. Your body is, how many muscles you have, I think? If I'm right, I don't remember, 400 different muscles. This muscle separation comes because of the silica, but does not allow the transfer of energy or information between one and another, and they're all connected at the bottom of each muscle tissue into the neural system, as you call it, the tendon to the bone. But in fact, that connection which sticks a muscle tissue to a bone or to another tissue is the point of the communication with that entity. But separation from the physical condition or the soul condition, because carbon-12 goes through the dimension of physicality. Carbon-14 is connected to the dimension of the transfer of energy in the soul. We teach this in the coming time.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe, for letting us know that we are full of glass bottles within.
We are a glass bottle, but a flexible glass bottle.
Yes.
We are amino acid glass bottles. Any other question? By the way, before I forget, just to remind you, we announced it last week. Next week teaching will be on Thursday at 6 p.m. Central European time. And this will be more or less the last time, I hope, that we change the Thursday's meeting. And I hope it'll be the last time we see the back of the Belgians and Keshe Foundation with it. Any other question?
Thank you for that reminder, Mr. Kesh.
Yeah.
Speaking of reminders, I remind our attendees here once again, you can raise your virtual hands and we can allow you to open the microphone and ask a question.
Let me remind you one thing. This is John is in the background. I hope he will listen to it. He will tell you it's his job. And that is that Keshe Foundation Arizona will receive the first set of systems in the hopefully before end of March, by the time we get it shipped and delivered. And we start completing our deliveries to Arizona as part of the, not Markray, but independent Keshe Foundation company, as part of the, what we call asset holding of the Austrian Keshe Foundation. We invite you to start gradually in the next few days. If you want to benefit by the use of this enhancement unit, don't go there for a fun. It's not for a fun. It's a, what we call it, is enhancing the condition and improving the, what I call the order. We start releasing, hopefully, with the management of the what we call Keshe Foundation in the background, the reservation for those who want to go to Arizona to enjoy what we call enhancing the beauty of the souls. And this process will start in the next few days. And please book in through the time allocation. We cannot take more than a few numbers from the beginning, and for you to enjoy this health in what we call the healthy understanding of the technology. But what I call is the process of public use of the technology in a larger scale starts from this month or in March. And we'll see how successful or what we see to come up. We hope we'll see the scientists from NASA Corporation and Lockheed Martin and especially American military, both to learn and helping the veterans of the wars of the American forces to start benefiting by it. A quarter of the systems in the Vision Enhancement Unit are allocated to American military forces free of charge. It's a donation from the Keshe Foundation, and we hope that many of the soldiers who suffered all sorts of things in these units, they find peace. In these units, they find the peace of mind they're looking for. These are not medical systems, these are just enhancing the work of the body of the man. And you'll see, and we thank especially Arizona authorities who are supporting us in this endeavor and close working with John, that we entered the next phase. And please, when we announce it, don't book in to just go in and see how it feels. If you have nothing wrong in your head, you come and say, so nothing happened to me. How can things happen if there is nothing wrong? So if you want to enhance it, you feel you want to go, it's like a health parlor. You want to have a healthier understanding of your emotion and you want to enjoy yourself, try to use the facilities. And I'm sure we'll see more of them, one in Tehran. And we are in the background, have already started the process in Germany. You have one of the European health centers, thanks to Dr. Kern, is already in the process of being established in Germany. And we'll have these 3 locations further on as we develop more. Any questions?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kesh. We have a question from, let's start with Micaiah. And I'm not sure if he wants to talk directly. I'll open the microphone if he would like to ask the question, and I don't see him here anymore. Okay. Oh, there he is. Okay. I'll allow you to talk if you like. Go ahead, Matthias. If you could say who you are and where you're from.
Thank you very much, Rick. It's Micah Green from Canada, and greetings, Mr. Kesh. I heard you speak in your teaching today about brand new technologies coming very soon. I was wondering if there's anything you could share with us, perhaps in a general manner, to give us a little taste of what might be to come. Thank you very much.
We prefer to keep this till all the contracts are signed. This is a legal position. This is a extremely important legal document, what they call it, process. Hopefully, once it's concluded, Keshe Foundation automatically become a 3,000 scientist organization team in research and development and commercialization. We are still in the final positions. Hopefully, our team who are working in the background with it, we can complete this in the next few days. Is a massive change. These are the knowledge seekers or the knowledge of the Keshe Foundation used in massive way. It will bring a lot of changes. It will bring a lot of changes. I prefer not to talk about it because we have to sign this agreement, and if what we see and our lawyers complete it, Keshe Foundation automatically become one of the world leading physical scientist organizations anywhere in the world. This team are as one group, and we are in negotiation, and they have developed our technologies, they've used our technologies, and now it's the time to merge the two systems. And it's an employment, it's physically companies running on the Keshe Foundation technology and what is being developed in nanotechnology, using our technology and the rest of it. It will be the most revolutionary organization ever will come. We have to complete it, then we can talk about it, and most probably the Keshe Foundation website shop will change in the next week or two if we finalize these negotiations with this team of scientists. Everything more or less you can imagine you use on a daily basis will change. They have worked for years developing these things using our technology, using the understanding of the nano process of technology, and now naturally they have, and they want to come to the foundation and bring it out in a different way, but we have to sign legal papers that we keep everything intact for them and for us. But we automatically become directly one of the biggest research organizations in the world, and it's in our field. We're not going outside. Anything you use on a daily basis, it will change, because it's not something happened. The products have been made, and there's some working in the background in the markets now. We have to see if we complete it. And we'll set up with this manufacturing in the US, in China, and we'll go for mass production with the financial support of many other things in the background. It will change your lives, everything you do. And we don't want to talk till we have it done, and how we hand over the management of scientific side of the Keshe Foundation to this team, because they're expert, they know what to do with it. So you will see a fundamental structure as part of the institute to come in, as part of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute work. It's been kept very tight. This now we have to see what the steps come in, and hopefully by early next week, our team and the lawyers can complete the dots, and you will see the banner of the Keshe Foundation, one of the largest, most probably the largest scientific organization in some 35 different fields of knowledge and technology. We have to see. we are still in negotiation. But we gave you a warning. We just informed you another warning that some of our management team, the head of the Keshe Foundations, are fully aware of this development, but we're keeping it very, very close to this.
I can completely understand and respect that. And thank you so much for sharing that. And I just wanted to also mention what you're doing for the veterans is incredible. And I'm so grateful for that. I have a dear friend of mine who lost his arm in one of the wars, and I very much can't wait to get him in one of those units. Thank you so much, Mr. Keshe.
You're welcome. You have to arrange it with John. John has put all his time and life, like all of us, into seeing this technology becomes applicable, and we'll see it again. Our team in Austria completing as fast as we can. We have started a production lines of these things, so from now on it's a continuous production. What can be made as we are producing the systems, and we will soon announce. I've just signed the documentation for it yesterday. The start of one of the largest manufacturing, what do you call, bases, hopefully in the next 6 months, 12 months in Europe. We have been given this opportunity and I've signed all the documents for it to start of it. And we are not just concentrating in the Far East. One of the largest factories of the Keshe Foundation on one floor will be established in the nation of Romania. And I was in Romania in the past few days, signing documents with the lawyers and the appropriate things. The company belongs to the Keshe Foundation Austria, and we'll take it in that shape or form. Everything has been done, completed. Now we have to sort out the technicality, and we very soon invite a large number of knowledge seekers from Romania to join us in this adventure. It's a production, research and development, and it's a beautiful place which we have hopefully have the pleasure of completing in furnishing it to the best of the abilities. And it gives us why we chose Romania is because in certain position Romania sits on the Danube. We can feed many nations upwards of Danube all the way to Germany and up, and we can feed into Mediterranean by exporting directly down into the ports and out into what we call other parts of the North Africa. It's a fundamental important for us to bring this, what do you call it, this strategic point for the Keshe Foundation. Being on Danube takes us out of the roadwork restrictions and whatever we have. We can float, and because our other factory sits in Vienna, again, on the other end of Danube, allows a lot of co-working together. We don't need to rely on the roads. We start establishing a marathon line between the two. Work of what we call the Keshe Foundation, and it's strategically very, very advantageous for us. We hope we manage to complete this, and again, Keshe Foundation Romania, headed by our people, and through Marius and the other members of the Keshe Foundation, as Universal Council members, it will be brought in. We don't employ knowledge seekers just because they're knowledge seekers. You have to carry the expertise and the knowledge we need. The same as what we are doing. If we don't reach it, we bring from outside as we do in other places now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Keshe, and infinite gratitude to you, and bless you.
Thank you very much. Any other question?
I have a question in the YouTube from Joy from South Africa. Is it correct to say that the field of the physical man, the correct fields of the soul of the man, and the field of the Maggrav system together generate an energy generator?
course it does. That's what we said from the beginning. You just understood. That's good.
Okay, there's joy in South Africa then. Thank you, Mr. Kesh.
Thank you.
Let's see, we've got a question about Ukraine from both Jan in the YouTube and Dan in their Q&A here. So Jan asks a question. 6 months ago, Mr. Kesh said, "We together as knowledge seekers ended all wars. And now we're on the verge of a war that might lead to World War III. How would he explain what's happening in Ukraine?" And Dan's question is similar. Whose decision is it to kill people in Ukraine? Is Putin's soul deciding those who die?
Yeah, let me explain something. We don't have a war in Ukraine. I explained this very, very clearly in American Teaching a couple of weeks ago. USSR never died. Russia, as a USSR, was never dissolved. Each country went on their own and they called themselves what they like. But the nation of USSR, the government of USSR, was never dissolved. Ukraine is still part of USSR. And is not who decide, it's the USSR as a collective nations of what we call the bigger Russia have decided they're going to keep their property and their territory. This is a Vatican war. Vatican tried to take over the Church of Russia, which is even richer than Vatican. And they could not get into it. Church of Russia has asked, as the administrator, protector of the church, the state of USSR, headed by Russia, and other nations of Russia, the 12, to protect the motherland. America will never go into war because they know they're just barking like a dogs, as I call it. Russia has the right to protect the assets of USSR. This is what they don't tell you in public. And Vatican is financing this push, and there'll never be a war. We said 99% weeks ago that Russia will go into Ukraine to protect the motherland, the USSR. Russia is not invading Romania, not invading Bulgaria. Russia is keeping the structure protected from the push of the Vatican through NATO to pressurize Russia that they open on the back door the Church of Moscow, or Russian Church, Orthodox Church, to become assets of the Vatican. Get this very clear. It doesn't matter what you hear. Russia has not moved in to create a war. Russia has moved in the territory which belongs to it as a USSR. Americans will bark. They know they're wrong. The Europeans will bark. They know they're wrong. And there won't be a war. This is not a war. This is correcting in what then later becomes civil wars in Belarus. We saw it in Chechnya and the others. Vatican is trying to push, using NATO as their slave, to push that we go into Ukraine, we take the Ukraine, we put forces in there, or you give us the Church of, what do you call it, Russia. It's not a war. This will never be a war. If you look at it this way, is there a war if America takes the Marine from the state of Arizona, or what do you call it, California, to another state? Is there a war? The war is what happened in Ottawa in the last few days. That's the war of slavery by their servants. If you know the politics, geopolitics. Americans don't have the field forces. Unless they go high-level bombing, you high-level Russia, I said, Russian USSR military forces have set one bomb out of what do you call it, Allied forces on Ukraine, they flatten out New York. That's the territory. The Americans can bring sanctions, no problem. What's going to happen is very simple. This is the pattern we've seen over years. Russia move in, they change the government, they take all these leaders who started becoming rebels, sold their particularly open business accounts and huge money in America and in Europe. They stole and robbed, raped the nation. They'll escape or they take them to prisons in Siberia. I've been to one of them. I know what they're going to do with them. And then after 30 days, 60 days, or 6 months, Russians withdraw. They instate a pro-Moscow understanding Orthodox Church of Russia. And then the barking will stop in 12 months' time. Never going to be a war. Cannot be a war. Moving soldiers to protect the motherland, the same as you want Arizona and other states to be part of the United States. You don't let the Canadians take it or the Mexicans. It's the same. USSR, this is the problem which was sitting for years to come up and now has come up for the second time. Intrusion by Vatican using military forces of NATO on their side has caused this problem, and it's not going to be able. There is another war. This is motherland protecting this child. Russia has spent trillions in Ukraine. As I said, where your children try to grow and you let them go, it doesn't mean for others to rape them. The motherland protects them. And this is what we see now, and this is a correction in a political dimension in Ukraine. It's not going to be. If soldiers get killed or whatever, we've seen it happening, this is part of the, what we call, you have to look at it from the Russian. I've been very close to the Moscow and the, what we call, affairs of the politics in Kazakhstan and Moscow, Russia for a long time. I don't support either policies or governments, but I stand very clear to see the reality and the truth where it sits and how it is. Ukraine today is still part of USSR. The Russian parliament and all other parliaments of the 13 nation satellites should have dissolved the USSR. This would not have given the USSR on the instruction of the leadership of Moscow. Even if it wasn't Putin there, it would have been somebody else, we would have still had this position. Vatican is, you got to understand, Vatican did the same thing with China. All that uprising we saw in Hong Kong was the amount of the finance and diamonds Vatican sent into Gojo, into the Central Asia to create with the black people of China problems. Literally, they came in as priests with bags of diamond. They sold it in China to start a war to divide China. China was aware of it. I know this exactly what's happening because they're part of the peacemakers. We know what happens with the government. And they isolated it to Hong Kong and they financed Hong Kong to break up. And we saw how the wisdom of His Excellency President Xi of China brought this under control. All the mayhem we saw and all the pushes of the West in Hong Kong was financed by Rothschild and by Vatican. One of these Rothschild guys was in the Keshe Foundation 6 years ago. They penetrated the Keshe Foundation through Rothschild to destroy the Keshe Foundation. At that time, we had a big breakage in the work of the Keshe Foundation. The number of knowledge seekers disappeared because of it. Was the same process. Because we knew one of the Iranian guys was connected to Rothschild, thinking I'm Iranian, they can break in through, but we are watching it with the work of the intelligence system. Go back to 6-7 years ago, you know exactly what I'm talking without mentioning names. And then with our work with the Chinese government, it was isolated. They were aware of what is happening. They got this sorted. They got the position sorted. So they went to Hong Kong with all the, you cannot imagine how much diamonds Vatican brought from Africa with the priests they brought in, went to China to create the splitting of the Chinese state. Exactly what they did. But this time we were aware, the Chinese were aware, and the system kicked in and isolated in Hong Kong, and you saw all the battles we had for months, and then now, do you hear anything? All those leaders who got paid by the Vatican are ending up in prison in China. We see the same thing now in Ukraine. Vatican, Rothschilds are killing themselves to destroy the peace that they have the control, and it's not happening. I have no worries. This is not a war. This is protecting Wonderland. And you see a few dogs barking, as I said. And in 6 months, when they stated back to where it should be, present people, a few people on the streets will come and jump, which they get benefited by the NATO and the, what I call free slavery of the Vatican inside. They shout and holler on the street. Otherwise, people of the Russia and Ukraine know exactly why the Russians are coming in. Just because you left the side of a fence in your garden doesn't mean the dogs can come in. You put a fence up, keep the dogs out. And that's as simple as that. They can bark behind the fence as much as they like. There shouldn't be anywhere unless something goes crazy with somebody in the West. We don't see anyone. And I explained that in the American teaching very, very recently. I've been part of this process for 40 years. And I work with the Russians and the Chinese leaders for long enough to understand what is their point of view. Yeltsin once said, Mehran has 20 more beds of the presidential offices around Russia than I have. Then you know how close we are and how much we understand. And the technology of the nation and the feeling of the nation. This is not going to happen. It should not happen. First of all, Europe doesn't have forces to match the Russia. Secondly, if they push, the pipelines will close. You don't live in West in Europe. Winter cold time, the Russians have chosen the best time to do because the pipelines, the prices will go up. The Germans and the rest will freeze, and the nations will go on the street. It's very well tactically done, and the Western Europe relies on the gas pipeline from Russia for their heating and their life in the winter. They know what they're doing, and in a way, the Americans can bark, but we will not see high-rise bombing in whatever. Few field forces here and there, and secondly, Europe doesn't have that kind of military, especially with Corona, to stand a full invasion from Ukraine into Western Europe, and it's not going to happen. Russia is just getting the child back home in a way, which became a bit strange. We will shout and kick, but at the end, when the child is in danger, mother will bring her home. Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Kesh. I have Azar with a hand up here. If you could go ahead, Azar.
Good morning, Rick. Good morning, Mr. Kesh.
Good morning, Azar.
I have, Mr. Kesh, I have two questions. One is...
You spend too much time with Jalal.
Oh, okay. Mr. Kesh, when we are younger, we have our skin gets much oilier, and then, like you wash yourself today, the next day you're oily. But as people get older, they have less oil. Does it mean we get less energy from the universe? That's why we're going to die? guess we are less
When you're
dry.
young and you get the boils, now maybe you understand for the first time, it's a combination of emotion which creates different fields. Do you understand? So you have unbalanced fields with the hormones and creation of fields within your emotion, which shows itself in different positions. If you look at the boils of the youngsters, their face or their back or their hands or whatever they come, you will see a connection between the emotion, how they feel, and which part of the body manifests itself on. You do not see boil with youngsters with a lot of confidence. Even they mature, they have confidence outside, but weak inside, you'll see it. And then just look at which position the boils appear, on which side of the body, which side of the face. It gives you a lot of information about emotion and which part of the, if your certain part of your brain creates certain emotion fields. So the skin which receives energy in that position has to interact. It's a field interaction. They change the composition of the salt and the zinc within the middle layer, and then that leads to irritation and what you see as a boil. The boil comes from the emotion and strength of the zinc within the middle layer. We understand this. If you can satisfy, if you create a child with a confidence in every shape or sense, you don't get any boils, hardly any. In my teenager, I never had any. I had a father who was, and especially a mother who was very strong in letting us know our position. I had a strange, strong mother, a woman in mind. Very, very soft, but letting you understand your position that you have no other problems. Extremely wise woman. Even my brother, we hardly any of us had this problem. It was not normal.
Thank you, Mr. Kesh. The second question I have is carbon-14, we can write on it and move within the physical soul and the soul?
What do you mean? Carbon-14 is mainly fields dimension, is a crystal structure.
That's what I'm talking about. Can we write on the field of 14 and move between the soul and physical soul? And also,
You have to, you're not educated that far yet.
Mr. Kesh, Mr. Kesh, I'm talking about even teleportation, we can use carbon-14.
Yes, but you have to understand how and which part with which energy and how to do it.
Because you see I'm trying to connect like for example in India they call the energy field proton neutron prana. So they use this prana and they kind of like you can be physicality, you can be in your house, but I can show up in front of you and just have a conversation with you. But I use that energy field, which is that carbon-14. Yes,
but the thing is,
it's just like a cable.
No. I know where you're going. No, doesn't go that way. You jumped it too far as at this time. It doesn't go that way. It works on the field, the strength of the understanding of the vision. What you're talking about is different than what you're trying to explain. Me being in front of you in a visual sense is different than me being in the soul dimension to visualize. You understand?
Okay.
So there's a slight, what do you call it? A slight difference in that process.
Okay, so because I was thinking because that's what I have a problem with, because I was thinking, even if I show up in front of you, if you touch me, can you feel me physically, but you cannot feel me? Because
if it's the wishes of me to have you physically, yes, you can. You can go anywhere. You can go into Kathmandu and think I'm here, nobody sees me. You do that in your sleep. But if the desire to create a physical dimension of even emotion, you can do. There is a knowledge in the position of love and loving someone. In many times, those who are lovers are very close to each other. They don't need, they could be in different part of the world, but they can satisfy the emotion of the presence of each other, even to the position of creating a child without connection. You do that through the soul. It's possible, but that's a knowledge that in a certain strength, a very high strength of the emotion, you achieve it. It can be done. It's the visualization in the dimension of the emotion, which creates that reality of the physical language. Many
Thank
people
you.
can do it.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
Many people do. You're welcome. Any other question?
We have two hands up here now with Andreas and Gatwa. Go ahead, Andreas.
Hello to everyone. Good day, Mr. Keshe. Thanks for another beautiful meeting. I have a question to the blood circulation, and I would like to understand more what leads to thicker blood or to blood clotting and then to thrombosis. Is it as simple it is that just the emotion cannot let go the physicality?
This is created for different conditions and different positions. And it's mainly partially due to the physical condition, change in a physical condition. We get this, there is a very famous say, used to be 80% of the hospitals around Heathrow Airport with people who come from long distance flights in the economy class, sitting in one position for a long time with thrombosis and with the heart problems and all sorts of blood clots. Because we create a condition of the field flow in our legs, and we get a blood clot. And then you get thrombosis. And then these things are created in different ways and emotions. We can create the same thing without being a passenger on the plane. This is being go back on the internet if you can find it. A few years ago, was well known that it was at 80% of the hospitals around Heathrow are long distance economy, because the business class and the rest, they have bigger chairs and they can walk around much easier. They don't get it. And that's why they tell you to walk when you're on the long haul. Just go for a walk to get the blood circulation. That's the physicality. You change the field interaction in the blood system. And that, what you call it, gives it a dimension of the fields due to the slow motion forces interaction, and then you get clot. If you can produce, even you know you're gonna get it or you have it in a pre-start, not when it started, you can prevent it. In flight system, they tell you to take aspirin 80 or aspirin 100. Take 1 or 2 tablets to thin the blood, to create the gap distance because of the neurosystem. But when you have a blood clot and then trying to use a system, it is dangerous, because if one of, especially if it's in the upper part of the body, if one of these pieces separates in a bigger chunk or not in a cell structure, you can hit the brain, you have a brain hemorrhage, or you have a heart attack. We had this very recently with one of our beloved knowledge seekers who passed away, bless his soul, from the Spanish community a few days ago. And knowledge seekers and the member of the US Council for the Spanish asked me, we can't, because you create a condition. If it's a long term, over 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, you can support yourself and create a condition of the process of expansion of the cells by fields. But if you go in a process in a later stage, You release a blood clot, we create deaths very fast. And they say, oh, Mr. Keshe doesn't help, because we understand the process. It's no good when you receive the amputation and part of your leg is gone and you have arteries blocked around the heart, trying to use the gas technology, because if you release the fields you have no control over, you release blood clots. You're taking pieces of blood like a bullet. Hits your brain and you have brain hemorrhage. You have to work on the long term not to lead to the condition of the blood clot and understand what is happening. I used to, in the past, I used to fly long haul quite frequently. I used to take aspirin 80, just 2 days before 2 tablets. And nowadays I just use gases, which I know how to use it. Any other question?
Thank you.
Can I ask something? Do we have the Universal Council member from Spanish here? Let me see here. Do you see it, Rick?
I'm just looking through our list here.
Does anyone from the Spanish community, I know there's many of you around, if anybody in the panel would like to say anything about our beautiful knowledge seeker who passed away a few days ago? He did a lot of work in the background for transcribing and organizing a lot of things for knowledge seekers. Do we have anybody in the Spanish people here?
I've got a 2-minute minute video that was put together for Victor that I can play.
Would you like to play? Yes, please.
Okay.
This is Alenka from the Spanish community. Thank you, Rick, for this, for showing the video. Mr. Kesh, there is no UC representative for the Hispanic community.
We do have a supporter,
We-
John
we
John
have-
Wells is
Yes,
here
we are
as well.
aware.
Yes,
okay.
but they are supporter.
The support. There
Yes.
is Universal Council for French, Spanish, now Farsi, and Danish, which is opened up with the members who left, and they were mainly connected with when we kicked the Belgium connection out as part of the system. And the Dutch is free, the Danish is free, the French, the Spanish, and Azar has stepped down as a member of Universal Council because you cannot be a member of council member after the age of 60. So the version is open. We don't promote and encourage people to become member because it has to go from maturity of the soul. We don't advertise any position for members of the Universal Council because if your soul matures to the point that you want to serve, you come forward and we look at, you send an application to the Keshe Foundation that you want to be a member, and we look if there are others who asked, we put them together and you decide who's going to be, or that's the way it is.
Mm.
Yeah, this is the way we left the position because those who were connected with the same kind of mentality, we saw them together leaving. And that was some of the best thing happened to the work of the foundation. We had we are aware of the Azar's position came vacant at the beginning of the February because she stepped down. And thank her for all the work she did. The Farsi language is open, the Spanish, the French.
Yes.
They're open, but we don't advertise. It's there. If you feel you
So-
have reached the maturity to serve, you can send the application to the foundation, and then there's a security check and everything else, and then it goes to the Universal Council.
And what is the procedure?
Just go to the Keshe Foundation, info@keshe.foundation, and say, I would like to serve as a member of the Universal Council, and you get a response back. It takes a couple of months or so because there is a security check. There's a lot of things we do in the background. And then
Yes.
it's opened up. You just, if you feel you're at that point to serve with your soul, is there, because there's no, what do you call it?
We think that Liliana would be a good one to
You
represent the
cannot,
Hispanic community.
you cannot nominate. It's
Oh,
one soul
okay.
has to nominate itself.
Themselves.
It's not by
okay.
nomination. If you might say Vivian might be good, but if she doesn't feel that way, that's the position.
Okay.
And this is why we left it that way.
Yes,
It's not by election.
thank you.
Pardon?
We have to dominate the English language.
Oh, that would be a problem.
In a way, not really. In a way, not really. We're trying to get out of that position at the moment. You can, we will have it in the coming time as we grow in it and we find people who want to serve even the language of one village, but they don't speak English. Doesn't mean we find a way to get them through.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is why we transcribe into language. That's why we use the transcribers,
Yes,
that they can explain, they can translate.
thank you very much.
We have a number of, we just saw the Russian number has been added in the recent past. And what do you call it? Some people came out of enthusiasm to become member of the council, and there was no parties and evenings and trips around the world. So the house of them they came in the wrong way. We had it in Portuguese especially, that they did not get what they wanted. They showed the actual school of thought when they came into the foundation. And
Yes.
they come and go. When your soul cannot serve, That's the position. We don't encourage. I explained that to the Universal Council. We don't post it. We are looking for. You have to see where is. Why doesn't the foundation have a language speaker in the soul of my language? And then you volunteer. It's like Bengalese, or another one Hindu, or whatever comes, different languages of Chinese.
Yes. Well, we will try to find somebody and let
They
them
have
know.
to come.
No,
They
no, I
have to
know,
come
but we
themselves.
have to inform them.
Yes.
Mhm.
I
Yes.
always thought he will be one of those who will take up the Spanish.
Who?
Our friend who just passed away.
Oh, he was a UC member, but
He was a
support.
UC support, yeah.
Yes,
Always
support.
thought he will step up to what do you call it, to become the Universal Council member.
Oh, but because of his age, he was not.
Yeah, he was age, yeah, I know.
Mhm. Yes, he was more than 60 years old.
Yeah.
So
No, I
he
always
could
thought
not.
he will step up and he will bring people with him who will be that way.
Oh,
The way he was enlightening. He was very sincere.
yes, yes,
And then that's these people always enlighten the others to become. And
yes.
we have like the same journey in South America.
But during the past years, he was very ill. So
Yeah.
he could not.
Yeah, but the
do
way
that.
he used to do things, the way he used
Yes.
to do, yeah, why not?
We will
Because
miss him. We will
very
miss
much,
him.
I think it's
very
going to
much.
affect the Spanish community quite a lot of his
Yes.
people will step up and do what he was doing.
That would be very hard.
And we have the same with John in Argentina.
Mhm. John.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. Great
He
supporter.
traveled all the way to Brazil as a boss to be
Mhm.
in the conference in Brazil.
Yes.
We start the process of the conferences, but organized by Universal Council more and more. And we'll start now that the Corona situation has settled down, and we can move much freer in the next 6 months, 12 months. Resetting up of the ambassadorial meeting, especially in the knowledge section, very rapidly in the coming months.
Mhm.
The ambassadorial meeting has been one of the ways that we always worked in the background through government.
Oh,
And we'll bring that back on because awareness is always brings the next step. Now that the Corona business is settling down, the Keshe Foundation will start this whole structure of the expansion and economical and awareness. The same as I said, I just returned from short-term trip to Romania to see that the structure is there because the heads of the Keshe Foundation believe that the Romania had to be, or Eastern Bloc had to become a center where we can create condition and production where we can sell at the lower end of the, what do you call it, prices. And this is why we took Romania, and now we have another research center in Eastern Bloc, and we just keep on expanding. And thanks to some of our knowledge seekers, Small Keshe Foundation will be as a manufacturing and the structure of work in Russia, in what you call it, which is now in the hand of the knowledge seekers. We haven't started the process. Any other questions?
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we've got Gatoa, who's been waiting here, and I think someone new, Claudia, after that.
Good afternoon, Mr. Kesh.
Good afternoon, Dr. Agat.
I have two questions for you, but before that, I want to send my condolences to the family of Victor, who passed away recently, and also give peace to his, through my soul, to his, wherever he goes. Now, I thank you very much, Mr. Kesh, for your continuously profound teachings that have brought us to the verge of enlightenment. And hopefully we will be enlightened sooner rather than later. Thank you very much indeed. I appreciate that teaching and the fact that you offer all these teachings freely. Now the questions. Going back to the CO2 box, if I remember correctly, today you said that C12 exists within the box and graphene is within it. And then you said C14 is a crystal structure. My understanding was also that graphene is a crystal structure. And you also said in the past that CH4 is also produced within this box. So this is a mixture of a lot of things that are in crystal, that manifest in crystal structure. And since the CO2 liquid plasma is very effective in elimination of odors or smells, I would like to know which of these crystal structures is really responsible, because we also learned that smell manifests in crystal structure. So which one of these, C14, CH4, graphene, which one is responsible for elimination of smell? And I keep going back to this question of elimination of these odors because it's very effective. I have seen the effects are immediate. So there must be something that really works within the CO2. So that's the first question. And then I have a second question, but perhaps you could deal with the first. Thank you.
If you look at it, what is CH4? Is again the way we see it, as it creates diamond structure fields. When odor is created due to the combination of the cells in certain part of the body of the man, in a way, how can I explain it? We absorb B12 in our, what do you call it? We are in our intestine, up to a point. It's a few micron. And after that point, we reject B12. So body has a system of attracting, and by changing the structure of its composition slightly, is rejecting. Rejection and attraction of the same. It goes magnetical and what you call gravitational in respect to one specific field combination. And the same thing is with the odor. How you create odor and how in our nostrils we have a composition crystal structure that due to different field strengths converts the smell to the data information which our brain processes as what is sweet, bad, good, whatever. But again, the reverse of this process comes in our colon, where the body again takes the chemical or composition and change it to odor to tell you what you have had and what the body feels about what you have eaten or you have digested. So in the nose, we create the absorption of smells back into digital information through the carbon structure of the amino acid of the nose to recognizing. And then the body is aware of this information. In the other end of the body, changes the smell to what you call you have done to your body, what the body thinks about what you've eaten. I had too much problem, don't eat this food anymore, or I don't like it, or in a way which created converted to the specific strength of gases. And so you look at how to change. Crystal structure is not exclusivity of the carbon. You have a crystal structure with copper. So it is, if you, in the future, we develop it the way we smell, we have electronics that sniff out like the nose of a dog, the heroin and cocaine when you go to the airports. We can develop a system that we can sniff what we call the copper. And which isotope of copper? We don't need electrical digital. We can create condition in this process. Or what we do in the enhancement unit, we create the soul of the copper, strength of given dimension. And because the copper in your body is not in the solid state, it's in the plasma state, we can extract it and put it on. We have a very interesting experiment or condition done by a knowledge seeker himself that he's trying to, he's a doctor, a very well-known doctor, he's trying to overcome a cancer of his own. And I'm monitoring, I'm watching, he's reporting to me in how he's done, what he's doing, and how he is progressing in what it does if the tumor increases or tumor decreases, or would the tumor still be there, but being a non-malignant or malignant, and its changes. And I'm watching how this doctor is helping himself. He is a specialist in cancer. This is the beauty of it. And it's amazing how he is, he's treating himself. And he reports everything, what he injected himself, what he hasn't injected, where he uses the pad. And I said to him, but apparently cannot see as a doctor, change the emotion. You can change all the physicality of it. If you change the emotion, emotion itself has a crystal structure too. And if you change it, it changes the matter state. Don't look at the crystal structure only in carbon or in odor. You have a crystal structure even in gold. I have made it. There used to be on the website of the keshe.com years ago. I set out to see how many crystal structures can I make. And I tried everything: copper, zinc, silver, platinum, cobalt. I've done all sorts of it. Crystal structure means having a specific structure that becomes like a crystal. In gaseous states becomes odor, or becomes a smell. And our body knows how to twist a crystal structure of certain proteins. It's not just carbon, it changes the structure of the protein, that becomes the odor. I say, oh my God, I ate the wrong food. The next question, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Keshe. The next question is about wishing. You have taught us about emotions, and I was thinking I was looking at traditional ways of wishing. Like we had rainmakers in my community. They would slaughter unblemished sheep under a huge tree, special tree, and then give peace. They would say peace to the Creator. They give peace to the Creator. And I suppose that slaughtering itself was part of creating the emotion that they were giving in order to receive. Now, going back to 2016, when I was a new student, there was a guy who made a reactor that became a feeding station for a group of us. And you led this, you asked us to give first, in order to receive from that reactor, you asked us to give the reactor water. So we wished to give the reactor some water, and then we asked for whatever we wanted, like food, for example. A lot of people asked for different things. So because we did receive, the question is about creating emotion. Do we have? I'm thinking very much that we need to name what we are wishing, what we are giving through our souls. When we say we give through our soul, we have not named what we are giving. And that may be the cause of lack of enough emotion. So would we strengthen our wishes if we named what we are giving to the universe or to the Creator, and even name to whom we were giving, in order to strengthen our wishing?
This wishing job, I don't know if you remember the song, says wishing well, is directing, or it's not directing, it's creating field of strength that can be, what do you call it, accepted by the, what do you call, the recipient's soul. I'm looking for it, if I find it, any of the knowledge seekers in the Spanish can find it. The extraction of it is, when we heard about the passing of our friends, a couple of days ago, I put on the Spanish link, I think, I give from my soul, but I hope will be at the strength that his soul can accept. And that's what it is. If it's accepted, that's given the strength as it's given. And wishing is, I wish my son to call me, and I create that feed of emotion of the love I have from him, and he calls me. I don't need to pick a phone up and to call him. And this is what we understand, that we give a strength, but if the other one doesn't want to receive it, you cannot do anything with it, even if it says it's strength. And they call it, they make voodoos and they pin it, or some people slaughter to be given, that the soul of the animal becomes added to soul of the man who was needed. And this is the process we see all the time. And we are fully aware of this kind of work. But what you wish means what you want to give. If it's at the strength of the person, and is the person ready to accept it? says you can take the horse to the water, but you cannot make it drink just because you brought the water. And you can wish, I would like to. I understand the, what they call it, the way people slaughter animals and what they call it sacrificing humans. Still do it in different names for whatever. I come from an Islamic nation, and it's very common, slaughtering chickens and sheep and camels for different reasons and for different times. And I have some of it and I give the rest to poor. Then, because I've been generous, I'll be given something. This is the mentality of the, what we call these kind of wishes when they slaughter that. But if you create a wish, you don't need to slaughter if it's accepted. And we're still back into the, what I call medieval time. We still do things. But you have to connect to the brighter strength. And why people who we wish, like our children, people close to us, they call us, because we carry their amino acid. We already have the line of connection. It's easy. Any other question?
Thank you very much, Mr. Kesh.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we have Claudia here. Claudia, could you open your mic and go ahead? Say who you are and where you're from.
Yes. Hello, Mr. Kesh. I am Claudia from Brazil.
Are you a doctor? Am I correct?
Yes.
I've seen your entries. I see your work. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for your answer too. I want to ask you, how will the pharmaceutical industry and medical school react to this transformation in the healthcare? And how to make doctors see the science? I am asking these questions because it's a big difference from the way we were taught in the school, and it feels like I'm living two lives and at the same time. Trying to deal with this transition, and how long will this change will take? It seems like I'm living two lives.
I know that because I know many doctors who do this, and especially doctors who care for their patients. They're always looking for a breakthrough, another way that they can help them. You sign a paper that you're there to save a life. So you start reading about turning about acupuncture, about homeopathy and everything else, that if the one doesn't work, the other one. We become another process in that learning of a lot of doctors who see to use it. There is not much we can do till we start showing and clearing the path for Keshe Foundation institutes, which we do this. And then we start teaching our way, and then gradually it'll become part of the mainstream. Keshe Foundation Specialist Institute in Austria is in the process of being developed. Keshe Foundation Austria Institute, Special Institute, the process has started this week. I think next week they start filing the papers. And we will have the same in Arizona. And as I said to one of our knowledge seekers yesterday, actually, that one of the first things we are doing, and I said this before, is suppose for the children born with lack of oxygen, where the foundation will start. And when we show these things in the database, and now we are bringing consultants. We are bringing medical consultants to consult us how to do the structure, how to do the paperwork, how to set up a full research development, and show data that these are the differences it makes. Then we start gathering, what do you call it, credibility of the technology. And this process has already started. And the foundation is responsible. Many doctors are using the technology with their patients, but it's just for them, and the patient knows. to become a streamlined mainstream teaching, we have to show classic direct cases. We have a very, what do you call it, the team of medical doctors and whatever, which they do these things. This is part of the 3,000 scientists who are coming as part of the Keshe Foundation. We give this to them to start now. These doctors will do the symposium and will gather data and submit it as a scientific paper into the, what do you call it, to the work of the Keshe Foundation. We have to do, it's the responsibility of the foundation to make application, medical application with doctors and proper research structure. And we have started the process. We have brought in consultants to do the clinical trials, to start the clinical trials, to start the process of publication of the papers and all sorts. There is one going on at the moment with a very famous doctor in the Middle East. She started on her own the application of the, what you call, cancers on corona. And she's very advanced. I haven't spoken to her a couple of months. And these individuals publishing papers will start gathering credibility and becoming part of the mainstream accept. The only thing is we have to accept is that this knowledge has to be understood to the application of the disease. If it's not understood, you can't do anything, you're back into tablets. We have to understand there is a field strength and there is an emotional strength, and you have to satisfy both the physicality and the emotion. Some of it has no emotion, so how do we handle it? We handle it when there's emotion, it worked, but our body doesn't handle this time. These are the things which we have to teach and start, and this is part of, I presume, maturity of the teaching, and I cannot be everywhere to teach, but now by setting up this institute and people who understand plasma and nanotechnology, it'll be the next step. I think Arizona will be a very, very beautiful breakpoint for the Keshe Foundation in the West, and then the same in Iran and Austria, where we will collect data on the patients and to show the performance and then publish it. And I think doctors in the Keshe Foundation can start working with John to monitor these cases and start gathering to do scientific papers. Use Arizona as a research point and publish papers on what happened to the people in betterment by using the technology. We have to do it for you, but now we just started it. We've done a lot of you use it, a lot of doctors use this technology and they know it works, but now we have to make it official.
Yes, but do you see this change in five years or 10 years? Like,
if they give us the access to the media, I give it 6 months.
Okay.
And if it is the way we are going, we could be 5 or 10 years. But a lot of doctors are practicing.
I'd like to go to Arizona. You'll be open to the doctors that you want?
Yes, speak to John. If doctors want to go there and bring patients to do it, you're quite welcome.
Okay.
We did that in, what do you call it, in a couple of places. There was one, Keshe Foundation Health, what do you call it, Wellness Center will be open up in Germany. And people in Europe can go there, people in America to go to Arizona, and doctors in Iran can go to the centers, wellness centers getting opened up. We have planned about 30 wellness centers doctors can link into and bring their own patients to use the system and tell us how it works and do the papers.
Mm-hmm.
Let
okay,
you know,
thank you very much.
You're welcome. Speak to John in Arizona. As doctors, you want to go there and bring patients or whatever for a wellness center. John can do it because the first units for Arizona are getting completely finished. You got to understand, we have a huge problem in Keshe Foundation manufacturing, and we keep on evolving and developing, and we just change our system, and then we have to start from the beginning. But now we put a line. The first unit has to be completed to go to see and to develop, and then as we are producing the others to go, will take shape. Please get in touch with John. Use Arizona as a research center.
Okay, I'm asking because in the USA, I'm not a doctor there, so have rules, and I don't know.
Yes, I understand. But let's see how he organizes.
Okay.
Because it's a wellness center, it's not a health center. So
okay.
It's a different structure. Keshe Foundation will open different kind of health centers in the US and around the world in the coming time as well, following the work of Alex in Nigeria. Wellness centers as pools and as, you go to a spa with different waters from volcanic positions. Now we are establishing that kind of system around the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Shall we call it a day?
Yes, Mr. Keshe, perhaps you could address one question in the Q&A that Cristiano had put in. It's an interesting one, and it's about his experiment. So if we can just squeeze that in, if that's okay.
What is the experiment?
He says, I would like to tell you about an experiment with a capacitor. He made a small capacitor with
and you sort out your picture. There's something wrong with your picture. It's a very flat line.
Oh, I see it's stuck part way there.
Yep.
It's smaller. There we go.
Totally narrowed now to one line.
How about now? Wait a minute. Okay, we should have it now. No, it's not sharing properly.
It's okay. Done. It's sorted.
Okay. All right. Yep. Cristiano says, I would like to tell you about an experiment with a capacitor. I made a small capacitor with a mix of some GANs and added some KOH. The next day, he added amino acids also in the capacitor. Next day, he was making a measurement on the multimeter, and I realized that I was responding with my breathing. When I breathed in, the millivolt measurement on the multimeter decreased, and when I breathed out, the millimeter measurement increased. When I held my breath, the measurement stabilized. So he's just putting that out as a observation, and thanking you for the knowledge.
I know that. If you blow, it changes. If you go in steps of breathing, it changes, just flickers. It's in a way
I've seen that as well. I've seen that as well with the CO2 box, a plastic box, and you measure voltages all around it. And when you put your hand over it, it changes it and so on. Yes.
We change the field of the environment. And because it's not just breathing, breath is a field, plasmatic field change. And we transfer it because it comes out of our body, is connected to the carbon, and if you have the gases which are carbon based, you get connection with it. I know it took me a long time. I haven't, managed to change it like with laughter. If you laugh and see if it jumps. But if you change the breath, it changes too. It's to do with the connection of the amino acid fields in line with the carbon that connects with our system. Thank you very much, Rick. Call it a day today.
Thank you, Mr. Kesh.
I hope we open some more mysteries about your CO2 boxes and how you have to take the magraphs as an energy source if you know what to do with it. Thank you very much. See you next week. Next week is at 6 o'clock. And I hope it'll be the last time we do such a moving like this. And hopefully we'll see each other very soon to expand the knowledge further. Goodbye and see you next time.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Kesh. And thanks to everyone for their questions and comments today, as well as attending. And we have the One Nation, One Planet, One Race for World Peace and Justice coming up next Tuesday. I think that's, let me check the date on that. I think it's March 2nd. No, it's March 1st. That's the correct year. Yes, it's the Tuesday, March 1st at the 4 p.m. Central European time starting time. So people are invited to attend that and listen to members of the Universal Council presenting that program. Okay, I think that's it for now. I'll go out with the Universal Body Enhancement Spaceship Unit and the Flight Enhancement Spaceship Unit videos. Okay, bye everyone, and thank you for attending today's workshop.